I am happy to be here, number one, and say this. I want to make sure everybody knows that. And I guess a couple of years ago, Pastor David and I started having lunch and talking about this. And then Pastor Megan came up, and then that was when they only had one baby. Now they got two. So this is really great that we're here together this morning. So I want to thank Pastor David and Pastor Megan and you, the officers and members of First United Methodist Church in Sanford, Florida. I want to be very grateful because this is yet another opportunity for me to talk about things in Sanford and the history of them. We have been a little lax in not telling our history, but we've got to do better. We cannot just walk around with our history in our heads and not share it with our younger children or our young adults. They need to know. Well, one thing I cannot do, I cannot talk about the history of St. James AME Church without not talking about Georgetown, where the church is located. And Pastor David mentioned that our congregation was started in 1867, 10 years before the city of Sanford was incorporated. So that says a mouthful then, but then in the meantime, all of these people came in 1867 to start the congregation, and in 1890, they incorporated Georgetown as a neighborhood. So we have a long history of being in Sanford, and I hope we've done great things. We came this morning to tell you a little bit about our history. We brought a couple of pictures for you to see, and we are just grateful, very grateful, that we can stand here this morning and tell you about St. James. Here's what I'd like. Oh, I want to thank my St. James family for being here. Thank you very much. What I'd like for you to do now is just kind of close your eyes if you can and just think about what was happening in this country in 1867. We're 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Slaves were freed, and some of them really wanted to get away from where they were. Number one, in the farms, there was no way for them to make a living. They couldn't plant cotton. They had nowhere to sell it because they were selling cotton in Europe to England and to France. So I guess if I were in their shoes, I would think that also, let me go somewhere where I can make a living. And let me go somewhere where I can be my own person. And that's what they did. They got on barges up in Jacksonville. I don't know how they got to Jacksonville, but I imagine they walked. And they got to Jacksonville, they got on barges. And they rode the St. John River here. Now, the St. John River kind of ends here. There's another inlet down the other way, but it goes down to the salt water. So they got off here because someone had told them that if you come to Sanford, there's farm work. There's other things that you can do to make a living. I don't know how many men, how many women were here, but just think about this. 1867. They had never been free, and they came here to make a living. But not only did they make a living, they thought it not robbery to start a congregation because they believed in God. They believed that if they worshiped and did what he said to do, it would be fine. And I tell you, today I'm real happy they did that because we would never, ever have had this sanctuary on 9th Street and Cypress Avenue that we have. But before they did that, they did a brush harbor out on Mellonville Avenue, and that was where they worshiped. I don't know how many years they did out there on Mellonville, but you know, brush harbor will eventually rot and you got to put another roof on it. But they were persistent. And that's, excuse me, and that's what I see or think about when I think about these history people that came in here and made history. So, what we need to do now is continue to think about the impact that these free slaves made. And I want to take a little editorial permission here to do this, as there's nothing in history that says this, but I do believe that when they came, they were not just thinking about what was happening then. I think they were thinking about what will happen 15, 20 years down when we're no longer here. And how are we going to be remembered? That church is one. And that's the second building they built. The first one was on the same plot of land. However, they demolished that when they decided to build this. And where did they go? Right back to the brush harbor. They went back. I am thankful for St. James. I'm thankful for my family and that a little part of St. James, not all of it, but my parents were there and all of our friends. We were in St. James. And that's all I know about a church. So you always hear me talk about, we got to do this. I need this. I need the other. I need it for St. James. And I need it because those folk that got off those barges, it was not by accident. I do believe that there was a permission from God to come and do that. And that's why we're here today. I thank you so much for listening to my short summarized history. Pastor David told me not to stay up here all day. But of all people to tell you not to talk all day, right? So I thank you so very much. Have a good day.